What's up, y'all? We are in a fun studio today, and I am here with Megan Holly, who, it's crazy, I don't get to record in person that often because most of the people in your network are not in your own backyard, but she is. And when we were on the way over here, we were chatting, realizing that we've been at some of the same events and had no idea.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So Megan, tell everyone what you do and what you're known for.
Oh my gosh, what a loaded question now. As Kayla said, I am Megan. I am a branding photographer, confidence coach, and speaker. And basically what I do is inspire people. I just feel really called to this portion of my life is building community, is lifting people up, and coming together just for like the better collective, right? Because when we're in business, when we are creating things, whatever kind of world or industry, right, that you kind of come from or you're in currently, I feel like that's at the backbone of it. Mm-hmm. And I know we're going to get into that, so that makes me happy. But that's kind of like me in a nutshell, like just uplifting, creating a space for people to pave the way for their visions, their goals, their business, all of it.
100%. And you have done such a good job at fostering community, not only locally, but also in your own corners of the internet. And why I thought it would be so cool to talk about is a lot of the people in my world who are either in or come from the network marketing MLM direct sales space are in such of a pit of belief that they can't have community outside of those business ventures. And so what I thought would be really cool is for you to kind of share your take on community, and then we can kind of dig into ways to create it, find it, and sustain it outside of that arena.
Oh, I love it. I mean, community can be built anywhere. I mean, if you really boil it down, I feel like I can see where that sentiment comes, though, for many people of if I'm not in this container of humans that are already here for a very specific reason, what do I do? How do I build that? Where does it come from? All of that.
Because a lot of it, in that world, the community really comes from transactional relationships, which I know can be super common in multiple chapters of life. This is my opinion. I don't know if others would disagree. Sororities and fraternities are kind of the same thing. They're transactional. It's pay to play.
Yeah.
And obviously there's some things when you pay to be a part of a mastermind or a group program. Those are also examples of pay to play, and they're not inherently bad. But for someone who's not interested in those, how have you kind of found yourself in worlds with people that mesh?
Yeah. Well, the first layer of this answer is kind of, I feel a little obvious for a lot of people, but it's really just getting true with yourself, right? Because the more that you're showing up as who the heck you are, the more you're going to find those people much more swiftly, whether it's in your backyard or on the internet, on whatever platform you choose to be on. But I have found that I have, over the years of building my own business, my own communities, all the different things, the more just kind of real and raw I am, the more that I'm these are my people. And it's a natural selection situation, because the people who aren't feeling that same energy or maybe have the same values or whatever, which when you're outside of these containers that are the pay to play, you get to do that even more. Because I think you almost, I don't want to say the wool is pulled over your eyes when you're in those sometimes, but sometimes you don't really see people for who they are because we're all kind of in it for right?
People are kind of on their best behavior.
Yes.
Type of thing.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas when you're in it to just simply build a beautiful community, right? You have more just bandwidth to show up in that way. And then it's just finding your connection points, right? So what I mean by that is, right, I'm really big on Instagram in particular. That's one of my bigger platforms that I just feel really good on. There's so many great people that I've connected with. And so I know that about me. I know that that's where I thrive, that's where I feel good, that's where, right, it just makes sense for me. So then once I identify that, then it's going into saying, okay, well, how do I find my people? And going into these different places and spaces and seeing what they're up to. Yeah. You have to go find, right, your people sometimes. You can't just be la-di-da, I'm going to put a post up and they'll just be here tomorrow, you know?
And they're not always just because you're in a specific industry or you're in the branding space doesn't mean that you're going to connect with a group of people who are all about branding.
Absolutely.
It could be a show that you love to binge watch and it's like your guilty pleasure.
Exactly. That's a really great point to bring up, because I do think sometimes we get kind of pigeonholed,
Yes.
thinking that it's just they have to be in this very specific vein of friendship or community. Whereas like if I look at kind of the people that I've become close to, and some of them I've literally never met in real life.
Yeah.
Some of the best conversations I've had in my DMs, or the people that I'm rooting for the hardest, are people that I know through a screen, right? Or a voice note or whatever. But we have a lot of likenesses, but there are things that are different about us, right? Like I have a lot of people like in the jewelry world, which doesn't surprise me because I love jewelry.
You love it, but yes.
But like that's not my specific world. I'm not a maker. I don't, that's not my world, but it is, right? So I think if we start to look at ourselves as these multifaceted humans, which sometimes it takes a little bit of an inside moment to yourself of like, like, what are the pieces of me that I want to bring out more to play? Then those people are going to be like, ooh, that person feels good. I really want to be in their essence more, and then vice versa. You're going to want to be in their essence
more, and
too.
I want to talk more about that multifaceted, multi-passionate piece in a second, but to kind of jump into that, I don't know if you've experienced this or you've had conversations with people who've experienced this, but in the work that like we do, it can be really hard to connect with people like IRL community, like outside of it, because they, don't necessarily understand like our work, our schedule, you know, because even like I found myself like in one of our group chats when, people are not complaining, but like, venting like, oh, long day, meetings, I got to drive here, this and that. And then one time I felt bad, like kind of complaining, because I was like, I'm procrastinating filming this video like while I'm laying in bed at noon scrolling TikTok. I'm like, that feels like a little tone deaf. But like sometimes it can kind of be hard to relate on that through no one's fault. They've never done it. They don't understand it.
Different world slightly,
And I feel like that's kind of a struggle sometimes, almost like maybe like those who, don't have kids maybe could struggle relating to people who predominantly talk about what it's like being a mom.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I do feel I see that in my own life, whereas there's little things like people who know you in real life or are closer to you, and they have a perception of who you are and how it feels to be in your world, but then they also see you in this online world, and they're kind of like, they see these snippets, or they see these different things. Sometimes they forget that it's part of your work and your job to be there and be present. So, somebody might, kind of, I don't know, bottle that up differently, package it differently in their brain, right? And then it just kind of like makes a different relationship. Whereas somebody who like really only knows you from your platform and what you're doing, right? It's important for us all to remember that you still are seeing only snippets of people's lives. I think that's very important. But because they're only seeing that, and like even if relationships go on beyond, watching someone's stories or whatever, and you have more real life conversations, you still, right? Like there's still these, I guess, just different values you put on it. I don't know how to say it. I think I'm at a loss for... That does make
sense. And you kind of touched on too, like people that kind of know you or knew you either before this world of business and being an online, not like an online personality, but you know what I mean? Like an online person. Entity. I'm like, I don't know what to call it. Because I'm like, I'm not an influencer, but like... I've noticed even over the years, because I've been full-time in this for 7 years, that people that knew you outside, knew you before, there can be a lot of resentment. Because like in our, I mean, not inherently in your space, but like in mine, like we do talk about income and like money and like openly about it. But I think the biggest thing that people don't understand outside of the world, that people inside inherently do, and you don't have to specify, that it's like, when I talk about making X amount of money, like it's not Kayla the individual cashing a check for, $3,000. It's, the business gets $3,000 and then 30% to taxes and then this to the overhead and that. And so it's like Kayla might get $100 out of that at the end of the day. And so I think it can be hard too, because people have this like, I don't know, twisted perception of like, she's this like high roller. And it's like, yeah, well, online, I try to be legit and not act like something I'm not. But it's kind of this...
I really like the direction you took that, because it's kind of true to, I think, really anybody who has a presence online. Because you get I've had people say to me, you always seem put together. Like you always have jewelry on and you always have, a little bit of makeup on, and I'm like... yes, I do. I have a rule for myself that I don't go more than 2 days without getting ready in some way, shape, or form. Doesn't mean I'm in full glam in a gown or something, but it means that I look in the mirror, I do like put a couple curls in my hair, whatever, something. So for somebody who just like only sees like, oh, well, she's always put together, right? It's a perception, and maybe it's a perception that they're like, I want to be more put together more often, and because I see that in you, right? So it's like this interesting take, or oh, you're a high roller, or your business is doing like, so I've had people say that in different seasons, and it's ironically always the season where I feel like I'm struggling the most, where I'm like, I don't know where my next dollar is coming from, you know, and like in the past especially, and I was like, they're like, oh, you just seem so busy and you're doing this and that, and I'm like, I am, but like there's also nuances to who we are, what's going on in our lives, what's actually happening in our bank accounts. Because as business owners, yes, that $3,000 check doesn't just go to us, you know, right? So I think it's really important to, and that's why I try to be as transparent as possible on my my socials, but also keeping certain stuff sacred for myself, right?
Well, yeah, because you shouldn't have to put everything out there to try to defend and justify who you are.
It's not necessary.
But yeah, that's something that I've noticed in terms of like maintaining relationships, because I think that this area can be isolating, whether that, I mean, it likely is probably actions of both parties.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that can be challenging, I think, too, for people to build community, because outside of these little very curated bubbles, maybe you do have to work a little bit harder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And put it yourself out there and put in the work. And I think so many people just aren't maybe used to it.
True. And I think some people have stories built up about it. Like, girls, there's mean girls, and there's this, and there's that. So then you keep yourself a little tighter. And it might have felt more safe in these container type relationships, because you're like, well, they're like enough, you know. Whereas if you're going out into a bigger pond of fish, you're kind of like, but what if somebody's like mean to me? And like, we all have that. We're real people. Right. We're like, I don't want somebody to like bash me or like, you know, troll me or whatever. And so it's scary to put yourself out there and think, well, hopefully these people are as like-minded as I think they are. And, you know, and to like wholeheartedly just be balls to the wall who you are.
Right.
Like, that's a scary enough thing for everybody. True. You know, I see it all the time. People who are in front of my camera or who I'm coaching or whatever, who I'm like, there's so much more to you. And this world is missing out on some really special things. But it's their journey, right? I can only guide and kind of like, come on, like playfully ask for, you know, everybody to be themselves. But it's their own journey of when and how they get there and how big it's expressed. But if you are craving community, if you're craving growth in business, the way to do that is to keep just shedding layers. I love watching you in your socials, because you are like, you're just you, right?
Yeah.
And we've only known each other for so long, but like, even in this short time, I'm like, Kayla cracks me up. You're just like, you're just there and being you. And there's not like any question of like, you know, like you're funny, you're this, you're that, like, but you're also resourceful and smart as heck and like all these things. And it's like, but what if you were keeping that small, you know? So I guess what I'm getting at is anybody who's feeling in lack when it comes to community, like how open are you being with like who you are showing up as and who you're accepting in your world? Sometimes you have to like give it a little try, like give an olive branch, and sometimes you're gonna get burned. You're gonna find a few people out there that are like, ooh, that was singed, that just singed me.
Oh yeah, I've had some of those chapters even very recently, and I think that too, when you get burned in any type of friendship or community type esque, can be hard to like try again. Just like if you have a bad romantic relationship interaction, it can be challenging to like jump into that next one. And to go back to about being the multi-passionate, multifaceted, a lot of the people in my world, that's exactly like where they struggle with like, who am I at? What do I show up as? Because they think they have to, as you said, be pigeonholed into one thing. And I think in the online space, it's niche, and it's like
niche down,
you gotta niche down.
Clear. Yeah.
And it's like, I think you can do that for your area of expertise or like that primary problem you solve, as I talk about. But it's like, I think one of the strongest pieces that can help people build community so much easier and so much faster is to honestly find community in areas that's outside what you're inherently known for in your work, which is how we formally met. Because I know you have a dance background. I mean, I taught a little bit of dance fitness in college, did a little class when I was a kid, but I wouldn't call myself a dancer in any capacity. Yeah. But and it's also not part of our work. And but we talk a lot about it and we post a lot about it.
We do. And I think that's the thing. I think it's finding those like common grounds is what builds beautiful communities, because yes, right? Like we all have these little offshoots of us, you know, if we were a tree trunk with branches, like we have this, we have our dance component, we have our, like for you, a mom component, for, you know, me being a dog mom, like, right? Like there's all these little things that somebody is connected to in some way, shape or form, right? And sometimes people will like be like, oh yeah, 1, 2, 3, like we have these things in common, and sometimes it's only one, but it's one thing that's so strong that you're like, I'm indebted to building a relationship with this person. And I think that's beautiful to me, because we don't even in a romantic relationship or a BFF-AE, what do we used to say?
BFFL, best friend for life.
For life? I feel like we used to do like the and ever, like AE.
I don't know if I remember that one.
Well, we were just probably just
you guys were being extra.
Yeah. But even in those type of relationships, like you don't want every single thing to be in common, right? You think you want that at first. Sometimes.
Yeah, you think you want to wear the same clothes, but then it's like after a while, it's like
you need your own identity.
Where do you start and end, and where do I?
Yes, and I love that you said it like that, because I know that that's to be true in a bigger, larger community capacity too, right? So when you are identifying like, yes, dance is a little piece of who I am, or being a mom is a piece of who I am, or gardening or golfing, whatever the heck it is. Yeah. You know, it doesn't have to be a hobby per se either. Like I'm just using those as, because they're most people have some sort of hobby or thing that they're excited about. Those can bring in people, and then you have that like and common ground, and then it grows into so much more.
And so what would you say to someone who are like, ooh, I want to start like putting more of those elements of me out there, especially in terms of like a branding perspective, when someone's used to kind of thinking they had to be a one-trick pony?
Yeah. It can be scary, because I feel like I even had the same conversation with myself not that long ago of like, how do I inflect more of who I am without confusing people? Mm-hmm. Right? Because what I've always told clients is like, you don't want them to come to a page that's built for community and business for them to think it's just like a glorified like personal page, right? Mm-hmm. It's a little bit of a tricky balance, especially if you're still in an early stage of establishing who you are and what you do. Whereas like we've been like down on the path a little bit, that people at least know, okay, this is kind of the world they're in, so they're not confused by a post that is a little over here. Yeah. But somebody who's newer, so I think it kind of depends on where you are in the process, but no matter where you are, I think it's just being like, okay, how can I connect it, right? So like for me, and anybody who's followed me for a while knows that like I connect dance to my business, because I truly 3,000% believe that energy and movement creates abundance and creativity and openness and all the things. So for me, it was like a very kind of clean connection there. And I talk about confidence and like owning your body and all these things. And so branding, photographer, owning your body, being confident, dance, like it goes together. So if you're sitting there and you're listening, you're like, well, the things that I'm passionate about that I would feel comfortable sharing don't have as much of a connection point. I ask you to go a little deeper and see like how it is, right? Can it be some B-roll of you doing it that you connect the text and copy with your business more? And somehow, like, it's sometimes it takes like almost like a what is it called, like a palette, like sophisticated palette. Like you have to kind of like try out the new food, try out the new thing. It's one piece of content, right?
Yeah, and
it's not going to explode everything overnight if it didn't work or it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
it's not like you can delete it later, or you can leave it and just say that doesn't serve my community or myself.
Right. And I think it's so easy to weave in things very naturally. It could literally be like, I spend my downtime doing this.
Yes.
I work hard to make money so I can pay for this.
Yes.
As you said, participating in this fuels this other area. So these like parallels can be drawn like so naturally, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
And I think too, it doesn't confuse people when we are still actively selling, either selling people on the concept, the methodology, how we do things, and then of course selling actual offers in the mix. I mean, that's the biggest
Reminding
thing.
them.
I even catch myself. I'm like, it doesn't always have to be selling the thing to buy. It could be selling the way that you do things. And that's what I always gut check myself. Like, am I selling?
Yeah.
And even it doesn't have to be every season. Sometimes we have seasons where we're not
True.
inherently actively selling.
Right.
But that's a big piece too. If you're worried about it, tie it in, make the parallels, and stay actively selling, whatever that happens to look like for you.
Yeah. And I also, for anybody out there that just like shuddered a little bit at the word of selling, you're probably in the stage where you're like, I don't want to sound salesy, or I'm not worthy of feeling like I can sell something. It doesn't have to feel or look like that. One time I had somebody tell me, like, I never feel like you're like selling anything, but they've booked photo shoots with me.
Yeah.
They're like, I literally never feel like you're selling me. And it's like, usually because it's like, I'll be like, housekeeping. I literally just did this week. Housekeeping, this is what's going on. I'm booking out to this, to this date. And, if you're like looking at this, and this is kind of the time frame. And then the next slide was ways to work with me. And like the main things that people would work with me for, with a link to my consultations. Literally no hard sell, just a reminder of what I do, how I do it. And in case you're new or, whatever, these are the places and spaces. Was it the best like tactic or whatever ever? Probably not. But was it a presence that's very natural to me and guess what? 2 days later, I had a consultation pop up, right? Whether it was from that or not, I don't know. I haven't gotten the consultation yet till next week, but like something worked, right? And so finding your own way of doing it doesn't have to feel like this hard thing. And if you're out there and there's somebody like jamming like a very specific way down your throat, like, it can feel overwhelming, right? So I think it's really important to kind of say what makes sense for me. Is the way that Kayla talks about selling and showing up feel good to me? Like, get quiet and say it does. So then let's take note from her, right? And, a lot of times most of us are a little piece of a couple puzzles, right? When it comes to that. But like, I don't know. I guess I just had to address that because so many times people shudder at like the word of sales, but like, let's not.
Yeah, and I think another piece, and I personally definitely need to be better at this, and I don't even know if I'm going to communicate it properly, but like, as an example, when people do like a day in my life, how to make that audience serving or client serving versus self-serving. And it really could just be like, instead of like, I took Fido for a walk, it's, during my walk, it made me think of blank, or I was, talking to a client today and I thought about it during the walk, and this is what it was. And I feel like I'm not even explaining that as well as I could.
No, actually, though, I love that, though.
But like,
you are.
Or like when you're doing going to Ulta and you want to film a little video in Ulta, instead of just like, these are the hair care products I love. It's, if you are going into Ulta and you only have $50 to spend, here are the 3 things I'd get.
Yes.
So it's like those little shifts of like, you love makeup, you love beauty, do the Ulta video.
Yeah.
But how are you going to position it with basically the further context of the video?
Yes.
So, and you can do that for anything. Again, those are the best ways, but honestly, to kind of like wrap us up and in closing, Megan, when people want to like show who they are and they want to do more things that excite them, how do you kind of get over that initial fear hump of just like going to the dance class, doing the thing?
Ooh, I wish there was one hard and fast answer for that, but I really think, like, to me, it's getting sick of my own shit. Like, I've been saying I'm going to get back into going to something for movement. I have been laying awake at night thinking about this idea or goal. I have talked to the people who know me best multiple times now, or they've told me, like, have you done anything with that yet? Like, whatever it is, whether it's a post or an idea or a full-blown empire you're putting together, I don't know, whatever it is, that's your journey. But like, where are those little like sexy sauces happening? I don't know where that came from, but that's what we're going with. Like, where are those little things happening where you're like, okay, and then how sick of your own shit are you that you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to press start. Yeah. I'm going to sign up for the free trial, right? That's how I got back into dance classes. I was just like, I'm literally sick of feeling blah. And the energetic shift that I know I can have is on the other side of paying whatever the heck it was for the 2-week trial, right? Like, that's all it was. The barrier was really just me at that point, right? It wasn't really even the monetary thing where you could argue that at any time. Well, I got to spend money or I got to do this. But is that really the barrier or is it you? So getting real, getting over your own self, kind of to tie it back in and wrap it all up here, is like when you said, even with the content, like how are we switching the center? Because it's easy to be like, oh, I love this and I love that, and it's just natural for us to do that, and it's okay sometimes, but how do we flip it to be like this whole world? Same idea with creating content and with getting to the other side of something that you want to create.
Yes, and I love that. And my thing is always, when you have that like burst of inspiration, don't book the thing a week or 2 weeks out. Book it like for that night,
Yes.
for the next day, because
Yes.
that's what keeps us procrastinating, is like, oh, I'm just going to push it out. Why?
Yeah.
It's not knock it off. You're available.
Yeah.
You're thinking about it right now because you are available,
Yeah.
and you're like, ooh, I'm not doing anything tonight. Book the thing. Do it right then and
Yeah.
there, because then you don't have time to talk yourself out of it, overthink, like, oh, you're going to get charged if you cancel. And so it's like, just trick your brain and just do it, because even if
Trick
it
it.
feels scary that thing is tomorrow, you're going to be way more excited than you are nervous.
Yeah, and the longer we have anxiety, we know this. I know we both, have our lovely journeys with them, with anxiety and things like that in different ways. And it's one of those things where the longer we have to think and ruminate about it, the more we're going to build stories and anxiety over it. And anxiety for me, as far as where I am in my journey, it is now my friend, because I know that it's fueling me up, right? It's getting adrenaline moving so that I can go do that new thing that's kind of scary and put myself out there. So I love that. Yes. Whatever you're thinking of right now, book it, do it, push send on your story or content piece that's sitting in your drafts. I know you have something sitting in your drafts. I know it. Just just click it. What is the worst that happens?
Right.
And there is not.
Exactly. I love it. But guys, thank you for hanging out with us today. I'm going to put Megan's links of where you can follow, hang out with her down below in show notes or video, depending on where you're hanging out with us. And then I will catch up with you very soon, I'm sure.